Welcome to this explainer. Okay, if you're a focused learner aiming for grad, business, or law school, you already know the testing landscape is shifting, and it's shifting fast. Today, we're decoding the 2026-27 graduate testing landscape, turning the absolute latest data, policies, and scoring metrics into a clear strategic playbook just for you.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty mechanics, I've got a quick question for you. When you think about applying to business school, which test do you think actually gets you in? Well, you might be completely surprised to learn that a massive 92% of business schools now accept the GRE alongside the GMAT. I mean, that is a literal game changer, right? It completely reshapes how we should all be approaching our applications.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our strategic playbook for today. First, the GRE test blueprint. Second, test day and logistics. Third, decoding GRE score percentiles. And fourth, a GRE versus GMAT showdown.
All right, Section 1, the GRE test blueprint.
So straight from the ETS Information Bulletin, the very foundation of your strategy relies on understanding the exam's mechanics. The test is broken down into 3 core sections. You kick things off with analytical writing. That's a single 30-minute writing task. Then you move right into verbal reasoning, which tests your critical thinking and reading comprehension across 2 sections for a total of 41 minutes. And finally, you tackle quantitative reasoning. This measures your data analysis and math skills, also across 2 sections, totaling 47 minutes.
Now, if you add all those sections up, it brings us to a highly efficient total time of exactly 1 hour and 58 minutes. This brevity is absolutely crucial. The modern test structure means your mental stamina doesn't need to be stretched over some grueling 4-hour marathon like the older formats used to require. But, don't mistake shorter for easier. This test demands intense, sustained, and totally unwavering focus for those exact 2 hours, because there are no scheduled breaks.
Moving on to Section 2, test day and logistics, because, as we know, execution really matters.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because knowing the material is really only half the battle. Executing flawlessly under strict conditions, that is just as critical to getting the score you need. So if you choose the at-home testing option, be prepared for some intense security. First off, you have to verify your identity using a mobile app called IDVOS, and you have to do this at least 72 hours before your test even begins. Then, on test day, you're required to show a real human proctor a full 360-degree view of your room using your webcam. You literally even have to use a handheld mirror or your phone to show the proctor your actual computer screen. It is a highly controlled environment.
And hey, if you decide to test at a physical center, don't expect it to be any more relaxed. You should definitely anticipate handheld metal detector scans and thorough visual clothing inspections. You can't wear any jewelry at all, except for a wedding or engagement ring. And get this, interestingly enough, you are not allowed to remove your footwear in the testing room unless they specifically instruct you to do so during an inspection. Mentally preparing for this level of security just ensures you won't be rattled before you even sit down at the computer.
Now, what happens if test day doesn't go exactly as planned? Well, ETS allows you to retake the GRE once every 21 days, up to 5 times within any continuous rolling 12-month period. And this is fantastic for your strategic planning. It means you can deliberately build multiple attempts right into your timeline without any panic. Plus, with the Score Select option, you actually get to choose exactly which test scores you want the schools to see. So a bad test day doesn't have to follow you on your applications. You remain in complete control of your own narrative.
All right, Section 3, decoding GRE score percentiles. Let's look at the numbers. So the crucial point here is really understanding the big 3 admissions benchmarks. Admissions committees are looking super closely at the 50th percentile, the 60th percentile, and the 155-point mark. Reaching a 155 on a section is a very common benchmark. It essentially tells a program that you can handle graduate-level rigor. It's basically a gatekeeper score for a lot of competitive programs. But how you actually get that score matters immensely, and it really depends on the section.
Consider this stark, eye-opening contrast. A scaled score of 160 in verbal reasoning puts you in the 84th percentile. I mean, you're doing absolutely great. But that exact same score of 160 in quantitative reasoning, that only puts you in the 50th percentile. So the exact same scaled score yields a wildly different competitive ranking depending entirely on which side of the test you're looking at.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how the experts frame this reality. As Magoosh brilliantly puts it, this is why your section scores tell a more honest story than your combined score. Think about that carefully. If you submit a combined score of 320, say a 160 in verbal and a 160 in quant, it looks perfectly balanced on the surface, right? But to an admissions committee that is trained to look at the data, it signals a top-tier verbal performance combined with a strictly average quantitative performance.
So why exactly is this happening? Well, it's due to what's defined as the quantitative percentile shift. Year over year, the quant percentiles have just been declining. The test taker pool has grown increasingly competitive and globally STEM-heavy. This is particularly true with international applicants from countries like India and China, where heavy quantitative preparation is just the standard. The underlying math on the GRE simply isn't getting harder, the competition is just getting fierce. If you're applying to a data-driven program where quant really matters, you absolutely need to prioritize your percentile ranking, not just the scaled number.
Which brings us to Section 4, the GRE versus GMAT showdown.
If you're an MBA applicant, choosing between these two tests is a seriously high-stakes decision. So let's look at the facts side by side. The GRE costs $220 in the US. It features section-level adaptivity, meaning you can actually skip around, mark questions, and change your answers within a specific section. Plus, it includes the analytical writing portion. That section-level adaptivity, that can be a massive relief for test anxiety. On the other hand, the GMAT costs upwards of $300. It features question-level adaptivity, meaning you literally cannot easily go back and change answers once you submit them. And if your target school requires a writing score, you have to pay an extra $30 for a separate writing assessment.
And this brilliantly illustrates how elite schools actually view the GRE today. Just look at the admissions data from top-tier programs. For the incoming class of 2027, Harvard Business School admitted 44% of its class with GRE scores. Stanford GSB, also 44%. Chicago Booth, 42%. Elite MBA programs are admitting near equal portions of GRE and GMAT test takers. So submitting a GRE score absolutely does not put you at a disadvantage in the modern admissions landscape.
Now, if you're wondering why schools trust the GRE so much, the answer is in this specific statistical data point, approximately 0.40. Validity studies show that both the GRE and the GMAT have an identical, roughly 0.40 correlation with first-year MBA academic performance. Statistically speaking, regardless of which test you actually take, they are equally predictive of your ability to succeed in the rigorous environment of business school.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative question. Which path aligns with your graduate school strategy? Are you applying to a dual degree program where the GRE's flexibility is key? Does your brain just prefer section-level adaptivity? Or are you aiming strictly for a data-heavy business program where the GMAT might highlight your specific strengths? You now have the playbook. The next strategic move is entirely yours. Keep learning, keep focusing, and I will see you in the next explainer.